We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We're fighting for our future. We shall not be moved. We're fighting for our future. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's standing by the water. We shall not be moved. We'll stand and fight together. We shall not be moved. We'll stand and fight together. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's standing by the water. We shall not be moved. We're standing for compassion. We shall not be moved. We're standing for compassion. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We're black and white together. We shall not be moved. We're black and white together. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We want a world of peace now. We shall not be moved. We want a world of peace now. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We're growing every day now. We shall not be moved. We're growing every day now. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved.
Good morning and welcome. My name is Mark Witherspoon and I serve on your fellowship board of directors. I want to thank you all for being here today and extend a special welcome to any visitors. If you would like more information about the fellowship, please visit the welcome table in the fireside room or sign our virtual guest book at uufaames.org/guestbook. Whether joining us from home or here in Fellowship Hall, we invite you to stay after the service for Coffee Fellowship, where you can introduce yourself and join in conversation with kindred spirits. A couple of announcements. Membership exploration will be held on Saturday, April 22nd in the morning for those interested in learning more about what it means to be UU and a member of our fellowship. Please RSVP at the welcome table or email the office. After today's service, the transition team will give an update on the progress and continuing goals during the interim period. Please stick around. So on behalf of this caring community, nurturing congregation, I welcome each and every one of you to this sacred space. Here we invite you into an experience of transformation, hope, renewal, and connections, which may inspire you to understand life in new ways. Thank you for joining us today. Our opening words are from a conversation with Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw, who coined the phrase intersectionality nearly 3 decades ago, despite it only recently entering mainstream conversation. Crenshaw delivered the keynote speech on October 2nd, 2019 at Diversity Incorporated Women of Color and Their Allies event, explaining the term intersectionality and its application to women of color in the workplace. She coined the phrase in the 90s to explain and address challenges Black women face as part of two disenfranchised demographics, both race and gender, simultaneously. During her keynote, Crenshaw described intersectionality as a frame to expand understanding of systemic bias and discrimination. He said how a problem is framed dictates how to best go about solving it. The term intersectionality, she said, was a metaphor to help people understand one can exist between two forms of oppression. For example, a Black woman can exist at the intersection of racial and gender discrimination and cannot attribute oppression against her as solely on the basis of her race or sex. Quote, what should we call this problem when first you're impacted by two somewhat distinct exclusionary forces? And second, the ambulance, the fix, the remedy isn't prepared to deal with the complexity of what hits you. And since we've since realized that it's not just gender and race that intersectionality deals with, it's all the isms, and it's almost all who are disenfranchised by those isms in some way. This is why intersectionality is so important. The recognition that we are not all the same, that there are differences we can see and many we cannot see that alter the experiences we have navigating life, is essential in the pursuit of true equity. Thank you.
Our chalice lighting are words from Christine Robinson. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of this life we share together. David Brett has a story for us.
Thank you. Good morning. It's good to be here with you. The story today is the story of the Root Children. Probably many of you know it, and it's going to be up on the screen. So if you can't see the screen, you should move around so you can get a good view of it, because the pictures are terrific. And this is a favorite story of mine. I picked it out myself because it's about this time of year and about the excitement with what's happening outside in the springtime. The start of the story. Under the ground, deep in the earth, among the roots of the trees, the little Root Children were fast asleep all winter long. They felt nothing of the biting wind, the cold snow, or the stinging hailstorms. They slept peacefully in their warm burrows. They were dreaming of the sunshine in which they had played all through the summer, and what wonderful dreams they were. When at last the winter came to an end and the sun began to melt the snow, Mother Earth came along with her candle to wake them up. "Wake up, children," she called kindly. "Time to get up now. You slept long enough. Spring is coming and there's work to be done. I brought you scissors, needles, and thread, and pieces of cloth so that you can all make new clothes. Wake up. As soon as you're ready, I'll unlock and open the doors up to the ground." The children yawned and stretched. Then they jumped up merrily. "Hooray! Spring is coming." Mother Earth had pieces of lovely colored cloth in her basket. Each of the Root Children chose her own color to make a dress. The Snowdrop chose a snow-white cloth. The forget-me-not, a sky blue piece. The buttercup, bright yellow. The daisy, white with yellow and a bit of red. And the poppy, a bright red. Then they sat down in a cozy circle and began to work busily. They cut, they sewed and pressed until everything fitted exactly. And as they worked, they sang all the spring songs that they knew. As soon as they had finished making their new dresses, they went up to Mother Earth in a long procession. Mother Earth looked over her spectacles in surprise when she saw the root children coming so soon. Well, you've been quick, she exclaimed, and how nice it all looks. Even the little ants who had been helping Mother Earth to wind up her wool came to look inquisitively. They had never seen such splendid colors. But there was still more to be done. The ladybugs and the beetles, the grubs and the bumblebees had also been sleeping under the ground and had now woken up. They had to be washed and brushed, painted colorfully, and made to shine so that they would look as beautiful as possible. What a hustle and bustle was going on down there. Up above ground, the warm sun was already bringing out the new green leaves on the trees. Would the root children be ready in time? I like the picture of brushing the ladybug at the bottom. At last, it was really springtime. Mother Earth opened the door, then out into the lovely warm spring sunshine came the stately procession of beetles, ladybugs, and root children with their blades of grass and flowers. In the woods, the butterflies fluttered happily around the flowers. The lilies of the valley found a cool spot in the shade of the trees beside the blue violet, and there they let their flower bells tinkle. There too, old Father Slipperslap came slowly creeping along. Ha, there you are. Welcome to the big forest, he called to the children. The little violet looked at him shyly from her safe place behind her tree. She had never seen such a creature before, and you could see her there in blue behind her tree. Summer came. In the little brook that flowed in the meadow, Water Lily let herself be carried over the water like a princess. The reeds whispered in the wind, the forget-me-nots came and stepped carefully into the water, but the beetles grumbled, "It's getting too crowded here. Go and play somewhere else." In the flower meadows, the root children were having a high time. They danced nimbly in the warm sunshine, hop and skip. What fun! If only it were always summer. The butterflies fluttered above them, and even the beetle risked a dance. The crickets chirped, the bees buzzed, and that was their music. Mind that little grass. Don't fall down. But summer also came to an end. The sharp autumn wind whirled the brightly colored leaves through the air and tugged at the root children's clothes. "Oh," called the wind, "hurry home. It's getting cold here. It's time to go to bed." So then they all went back again in a long procession. Mother Earth was standing by the door and hugged each child one by one. "Come in, children," she said, "and you too, beetles and bees. It's warm and cozy in here, and I've got something for you all to eat and drink. After that, you must all go to sleep until I wake you up again in the springtime." And the little children went down under the ground again to start their long winter's sleep.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Each Sunday, we invite members to share joys and challenges to help us understand each other and to offer support. It's a tradition here to take this moment to share our joys and sorrows and acknowledge the mutual support we have for one another as a community. This is a time of sharing, not a time of announcements. And if you would like, those in the fellowship hall can step up to the microphone, introduce yourself, share your joy or sorrow, and I will light a candle for you up here. All right, hearing nothing, I will go ahead and light one last milestone candle for those joys and sorrows that are left unspoken. And let's remember those who were named, those memories that were spoken, and keep them in our hearts in the days and weeks to come.
The reading is We Feel Now a Largeness Coming On by Tracy K. Smith. Being called all manner of things from the dictionary of shame, not English, not words, not heard, but worn, borne, carried, never spent. We feel now a largeness coming on. Something passing into us. We know not in what source it was begun, but rapt, we watch it rise through our fallen, our slain, our millions dragged, chained, like daylight setting leaves alight, green to gold to blinding white, like a spirit caught, flame in flesh. I watched a woman try to shake it once. From her shoulders and hips, a wild, annihilating fright. Other women formed a wall around her, holding back what clamored to rise. God, the devil, ancestor. What black bodies carry through your schools, your cities. Do you see how mighty you have made us? All these generations running. Every day steeling ourselves against it, every day coaxing it back into coils, and all the while feeding it, and all the while loving it. Let us share together a moment of silence.
Intersectionality is central to our work in environmentalism because we need to lift up the voices of those most affected and most unheard. Please know that this morning, half of the non-pledge offering will be donated to the Story County Conservation. Their mission is to connect people with nature and improve natural resources in Story County. They acquire and manage property for this purpose and develop conservation and recreation programs throughout the county. The other half of the offering will support programs here in our fellowship that make this a community of transformation. We'll pass the basket here in Fellowship Hall, but for those at home, you can visit uufames.org to make your contribution today. And if you are visiting, please know that your presence is gift enough.
So many colors, yet one light. So many stars, and yet one night. So many people coming from the rift of birth. So many planets, yet one earth. So many branches, yet one tree. So many branches, yet one tree. So many rivers, yet one sea. So many ways to see the light shine from above. So many colors and many clouds and yet so many voices, yet one song. So many sing, yet all belong, and all belong. So many grains of sand make up the mighty shore. In every shell, the oceans roar. So many colors, yet one light. So many colors, yet one light. So many stars, and yet one night.
Good morning. We have a responsive reading this morning. You can follow along, and the words that we will be reading, you can find them on the board here. They are also in reading number 584, and singing in the living tradition if you want to follow along from your seat. This is a network of mutuality by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
There are some things in our social system which all of us out to be maladjusted.
Hatred and bitterness can never cure the disease of fear. Only love can do that.
We must evolve for all human conflict, a method of which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation.
The foundation of such a method is love.
Before it's too late, we must narrow the gaping chasm between our proclamations of peace and our lowly deeds which precipitate and perpetuate war.
One day we must come to see that peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we arrive at that goal.
We must pursue peaceful ends through peaceful means.
We shall hew out the mountain of despair, a stone of hope.
Thank you.
My name is Jonah. Who am I? All of us have identifiers that make our lives either easier or harder. This is an exercise to identify some of those areas who make you who you are and find any influencers that work together to make your life easier or harder. You will notice that we have not included race and gender, but some of the more subtle identifiers that you may not have thought about so frequently. At this point, we're asking you to gather your chairs into groups of 5. Okay, some of the influences would be influence from my family growing up. Another one is ways I have privilege. The yellow one says things difficult for me to discuss. The green one says things that cause discrimination. And the blue one says things others don't really know about me. Okay, is that helpful? Okay, groups of 5 as quickly as possible. Oh, and the Zoom people will be gathering together as one group. They will be led.
Favors for me, if you could. The first favor is please return your chairs as closely as you can back to where they were before. After we do that, we're going to take a couple of silent moments to reflect on the discussion that you just had in your groups. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for participating in that small group discussion. I hope that had some food for thought and things that you can reflect on and take with you after you leave here. I do not have a fear of public speaking, but I don't love like kind of being the center of attention. So bear with me if you don't mind. Hello, my name is Michael Johnson. My pronouns are he, his. On a day in which we're discussing intersectionality, I thought it was important to inform you of my pronouns. I don't do it enough when speaking to others because affirming my pronouns means very little to me personally, but the acknowledgement means a great deal to our friends and loved ones who identify outside of a gender binary. Studies have shown that affirming pronouns can help lower depression and raise self-esteem in transgender persons. I was asked to speak briefly to you all today about isms. Isms is a term used to describe various forms of discrimination, such as racism, sexism, ableism, or ageism. I must tell you, I didn't want to do it. I stalled and hemmed and hawed at putting my thoughts together because it's hard. I've lived in my being for 47 years. I'm a large Black man. That's how I see me. That's how others see me. I'm a large Black man living in a predominantly non-Black community, working in a largely non-Black industry, attending and currently speaking to a wholly non-Black congregation. I've been blessed with a fantastic life. I have a wonderful wife and children who love me. I have friends who I enjoy sharing things and spending time with. I have a near perfect health and a very fulfilling career. I love being me. However, part of being me is carrying the burden of being a large Black man in America. What does that mean exactly? I spend every minute of every day trying to figure out how to live my life for myself and my loved ones to provide and protect without being viewed as threatening to people. I encounter who may or may not know me. Every word, every action is measured to ensure that others view me as safe. I have to do this for the comfort of others and at times to make sure that I myself are safe from being harmed. I smile, although that comes naturally for me. I nod acknowledgments with others with whom I make eye contact with. When walking within groups of people, I even make myself smaller, contort my body to avoid even the slightest bit of physical contact. I code switch. Code switching means that I have different ways in which I speak around different groups of people. I use different words, different speech patterns and tone to make others feel comfortable around me. This isn't just a show for white people either. I live in a world where, depending on who I happen to be with at the time, I may be either too Black or not Black enough. This occurrence is even felt more for my mixed race daughters. Are these burdens that you have to carry with you? Despite this, I feel very fortunate. I feel that magic word, the word that has become so controversial of late. I feel privilege. I feel a level of privilege that most can't feel. Yes, I am Black in America, but I have many other things protected from some of these isms that I discussed earlier. I am a man. I am cisgender. I am able-bodied. I am highly educated. I am middle class. And despite what sometimes I may think about myself and the gray that shows in my beard, some people still think of me as young. I am proud to be all these things and many more. I hope you are proud of the things who make you who you are, because there are people who love you for exactly who you are. I want to go back, though, and to that privilege in these isms. We've done exploring today about who we are and the role that intersectionality plays in our lives. This is our call to action. Earlier today, we said the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Don't feel bad about the privilege that we all have. Use your privilege and fight for our friends and neighbors who don't have all the privileges that we may be blessed with. If you're a cis Black man, write your local congressperson and let them know that you insist that trans children are afforded any and all health care that allows them to be healthy and happy. If you're a trans woman and a friend uses ableist language, don't let the moment pass. Be an advocate. Let that friend know that that type of language and thought process is unacceptable. If you're someone who happens to have a little bit more time and treasure than most, use those resources. Donate money to a food bank. Volunteer time at a women and children's shelter. Seeing the headlines of today, there's so much wrong, so many reasons to be discouraged, frustrated, angry, even hopeless. I find myself feeling these things more times than I should. But we, you, me, us, have the opportunity every single day to be a light, to be a ray of hope. Take these chances. I'm able to be up here sharing these words with you because people before me paved the way with help of these rays of light. When it seemed like there would never be hope for a Black man in America to do something like this, people provided hope when there was seemingly very little. We've come a long way. But this journey is a journey that will never end until all injustice has been extinguished. Please go out and be that light for others. Thank you very much for your time.
We'll now join in singing hymn 1074. The words are up on the screen, and you can rise as you were willing and able. Please be seated. That hymn is confusing enough that we probably all ought to have the books to look at. It didn't help me. So I'm going to follow Michael's example and tell you my name is Mary Richards. My pronouns are she and hers, and I agree, I do not use them often enough in everyday life. Most of you are aware that this congregation adopted the eighth principle at our annual, that when we adopted the eighth principle at our annual meeting, we made a commitment to educate ourselves on what living into the eighth principle means for each of us individually and for our congregation. This morning's program is one of a series intended to continue that education. The eighth principle calls us to actions
that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. What we have tried to do this morning is to show that addressing racism by itself is ignoring the reality that discrimination experienced by a person because of any one factor, such as race, leaves out many kinds of discrimination that are implied in the other oppressions mentioned in passing in the 8th principle, and that intersect with racism to make its effects more debilitating. The Portland, Oregon group PDXWIT, Women in Tech, have created a statement that we think states this very well. And with this statement, we are going to extinguish our chalice today. We will not achieve a more just and equitable society without acknowledging and studying intersectionality. To ignore or deny it is to be complicit about racism, sexism, and other biases and injustice that have plagued our society for as long as history remembers. Individual stories indicate that intersectionality exists in every person, every family, and every community. It is incredibly brave and empowering to see one's own intersectionality and to acknowledge others. Your assignment this week, should you accept it, is to examine the concept of intersectionality as you find it in interactions with others. Perhaps doing so will offer you new insights and understandings. Gentle people, go in peace.
And then come back for the transition team. So go ahead and have your snack, and we'll have some snacks in here too.